Well, hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Redeem Her Time podcast. You guys are in for a real treat because God has dropped someone in my lap, Gabe Cox, and we are having so much fun getting to know each other and already collaborating on a couple of different projects coming up. So we'll be alluding to those as we go today. But Gabe, I love who you are and what you're about. So I'm excited to introduce you to my podcast audience and would love for you to tell us, kind of in your words. I mean, they've heard a little more formal introduction, but a little bit more about who you are. And let's start with like telling us a little bit more about what you juggle in this season of your life outside of business, and then we'll weave into some business questions.
Yeah, I love it. Well, thank you for having me here, Lissa. I just think it's really cool that just like God moments that He connected us and the confirmation that both of us have had for the different events that we're going to be doing together. And I just think that's amazing. So when we're following God's lead, it just is a peaceful place to be. And I can't tell you I do it all the time, but as I do, I know it goes better and better when I listen to Him and I don't try to take control. So my season right now, I am a mom of three boys, all different ages, because elementary, to high school now. One about to fly the coop and go to Nebraska on a athletic scholarship for gymnastics. So we're kind of navigating that right now. And I homeschool, but my husband helps me homeschool right now, which is kind of amazing. And we're just kind of driving all over, doing all the things and trying to live life to the fullest. Like I am an outdoors person, love running, reading, hiking. We rock climb as a family, play tennis, and I think we play tennis just because none of us are good at it. So
Oh, I
we
love
we
it.
can't be that yeah we can't be that competitive in it. So it's kind of fun. But
Oh.
that's just me in a nutshell. Season is full, but try to make the most of it and try to say no to the things that I don't need to say yes to.
Yeah, I love that. And I love how you're looking at it as a season because it is like, and seasons change and there are certain gifts. I was just messaging with a friend before we hit record, about a season that's changing for her. And she's kind of sad about the changes that are actually happening in this season. And yet I'm like, I'm just going to pray that you're going to be able to look back and see the gift of what this last season has been and see the gift in what this next season will be, even though it's going to look different. And your life is going to be different with one out of the house in some ways. I think we think life is going to get less busy when the kids grow up and move out of the house. And as you're about to find out, especially because he'll be in college athletics, your time will actually not get any less because you'll have farther to travel to see him compete and things like that. So it's just a different kind of busy or a different kind of fullness, as I like to call it. So I love that. So you're homeschooling, you're doing it with your husband. What an amazing thing. And you've also got a business. So I want to hear all about that. Like what is it that God has called you to do to serve others in your business? And I'd love to hear a little bit of the journey of how he's brought you to where you are right now.
Well, you know what's funny about that is there's different seasons in business too. And when we allow him to guide our steps, he's going to pivot us in the directions that he wants. So when I started out way back when, I started out as an author. Like I was just publishing my first book. And then I was, researching and people were like, oh, you need to turn it into a business and you need to do this and you need to do that. And so it kind of got me on the journey of online business, a journey I didn't expect to be on. But I did know that the message was in my heart, and that's what I was called to do at the moment. And so it quickly shifted into a coaching business where I got to help others with their goal planning. But then it's kind of funny because a couple years down the road, it was like God was nudging me to go into the entrepreneur space. Like, you're supposed to focus on faith fueled entrepreneurs. And I was like, no, 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 I don't want to do that. Usually he calls us to things we're like, no, we don't want to do that. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll do it. So it's pivoted over time in who I've had as a target customer or who I've been talking to in my messaging. And now it's shifted into helping faith fueled entrepreneurs craft a personalized game plan that works for their capacity in different seasons so that they can go after their goals without sacrificing everything to do so. Because I have been in burnout season more than multiple of times, we'll call it. And it's because of me taking control of situations and not allowing God to lead. And it's because I thought my way was better. My plans were better. And I needed to push, push, push. I needed to hustle because hustle culture says you can't make anything work unless you're hustling. and even the badge of honor of being I feel like what is it, the hot mess mom. Like it's a badge of honor to be a hot mess mom,
Yeah.
right? Like to
Yeah.
have all these things and all these roles and all, and I fell into that. And so the messaging shifted as God was shifting my heart to say, you don't have to do everything. You don't have to be in charge of everything. I know you like to be, but if you say no to something, someone else can step up and say yes. That was huge for me. And so it's been cool how it's like my life has shifted, my business has shifted, and just like trying to remind myself to stop taking control and to really allow him to lead, which has brought business more into I wouldn't say stress less, because I still have a lot of
Sure.
stress, but a no hustle, let's do it countercultural. I don't have to do it the way everyone says. I threw a lot of things out the window that gurus said. We're going to talk about one of those things today, but I wanted to do it the way that I felt good about doing it, you know?
Yes. Okay. I just have to go right into something you said because this is the third time this week that something around this has come up. So I feel like God's got a message for us in this. And that is that when we try to take control of something, whether it's our time, our business, a relationship, our health, we are telling the enemy right where to meet us, right? Like
Mm,
wherever my white knuckling is happening, wherever my grip is super duper hard, because I think holding on to this is what's going to lead to the result that I want. I think the enemy is like, okay, that's a place where, yeah, she's actually weak and where I can, kind of come in and get to some of those underlying heart issues and things like that and get us busy and distracted and off in the weeds and looking in other directions. And so I love the fact that, yeah, you're learning and you're teaching women to let go of control. And there's a like stress in and of itself is actually neutral, right? Like stress
mhm.
is when, like there's pressure being put on or the body is having this response, but there's healthy stress and there's unhealthy stress. So let's kind of dive in a little bit to like what you alluded to, like as the whole hustle culture of like this stressful type way of approaching life and business and things like that. Like, because, and I heard you say this, we're told to do all these things by all these gurus, I say in air quotes, and experts and things like that. Like, this is, the secret sauce that, we need to incorporate. And if we don't, then, we're not going to have the result that we're looking for. So let's dive a little bit more into why this becomes a problem for us as women, especially as, those of us who are business owners and juggling a lot of things. What have you found from your experience from working with entrepreneurs? Yeah, around kind of the hot mess express badge of honor, as you called it, and how it's affecting us.
Yeah. Well, I think about work-life balance. We all are striving for that as women or moms. And it's like, I want all the things, but I need to be balanced. And the myth of it is that balance isn't really, I don't know. I don't know if I'd say it's not really a thing, but it's not something where like work and business and family, all of it's going to be equal. Sometimes balance means you're actually working more in your business and spending a little less time with your family. But other times, other seasons, you've got more family responsibilities and your work takes a little bit of a backseat. But balance is knowing when to have something like that happen, like what your seasons are and the capacity in the season, and then being able to meet that with what you're doing. And so when it comes to hustle culture and trying to do all the things, what I've seen, especially in other entrepreneurs and in myself, is that when I hear something new, like, oh, you should be doing this in your business. Okay, I'll add that. But what we do is we keep adding things and we forget to take something off our plate, right? And
Right.
so when we're trying, my goal is to help others become intentional with what they're doing. Like, does this actually serve a purpose
Mm.
in your business or even in your life? Or does it not? Is it just taking up space? And if the answer is it's really just taking up space, it's just an extra thing to do, then it's one of those things that we need to be willing to release. And in business, sometimes we start a project, we get it going, we do it, and we do it, and we keep doing it because we're told to keep doing it. But then we realize it's not really it's crickets kind of a thing, right? Like it's not really giving us the return. You talk about ROTI a lot. It's not giving us the return, but we keep doing it because we think we have to do it. And it's like, why? Why are you
Yeah.
doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results? Right? That's the definition of
Yeah.
insanity.
Yeah.
No, we should be okay with letting go. And an example of this is totally off the subject in a way, but I was in a multi-level marketing business for 15 years, and my husband and I did it together. We loved doing it together. We learned a lot in it, but you know what? We overstayed our time there, and we just stayed because we didn't want others to go, told you so, or we didn't want to not make it work. We thought, well, we have to make it work, right? When God was saying, this isn't where I want you anymore. I might have wanted you there in the season, but you're not going to find fruit there because that's not where I've called you. And so I think we all do that in our business a lot of time. Like, no, I was told to do this, so I'm going to keep doing it. I'm going to pound my head on the pavement, even though it's not working, instead of going and kind of like allowing God to lead. To me is like, okay, God, where do you want me? And
Okay.
if I don't hear, it means I just keep doing what I'm doing, right? Okay.
Yeah.
But if I hear like a pivot where he said, you need to talk to other people, oh, okay, I'll do that. Right. But the funny thing is, when we let go, and one, like the let go of the control, like we were talking about, or we let go of our thought of what's going to come together, it's crazy how one, we get confirmation in different ways. And it could be in growth, but it could be just in peace. Like the
Right.
peace that you have, if
Mhm.
you're not in peace as you're working your business,
Yeah.
then there's something going on there. And you have to wonder, is it because you're doing something out of alignment? Or really it is because you're doing something out of alignment. What is that? So that
Mm.
we can make that shift. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Oh my goodness, it totally does. I mean, I'm taking so many notes over here, and I hope our listeners are too. I mean, even to your story of being in network marketing and like God literally having to like pry our hands off of that thing. I remember I had literally just done this big post on social because they had announced the next trip and there was a new way of earning it and I was earning it and I, had the like, wow, I'm jumping in my friend's pool and whatever and like made this big announcement and it was like literally within a week of that, I had this conversation with my coach around I think I'm supposed to be in the coaching and not in network marketing. And
Mm,
it was this like several week process for me to like be like, but I've held on to this for so long and I have to make this successful. I'm like you, like I have to prove to myself and to my family and to the people who are watching, like, all these things that I thought I had to prove, let alone earn this trip and whatever. And it was like once I let go and I like finally was like, okay, Lord, almost like not looking, like whatever it just was like that peace just so flooded my soul. And it was like the floodgates just literally started overflowing with what this was going to look like, what coaching was going to look like. And now I look back and I'm like, why did I not start this sooner? And it's almost like, yeah, like we think about like when our kids are little, right? And they're like hanging on to something because they're so, and you're like, if you will let go of this, there's something so much better right here, but you can't hold it until you let go of your grip. So anyway, all that to say, totally relate. And I know that our listeners are as well. So yeah, so many things. And you mentioned like how it costs our roadie, our return on time invested. And that piece is not a tangible thing, but it is a real thing that is going to cost us time, money, energy, emotion, all of those things as we're doing that. So one of the things that we are told as business owners is that we have to be on all these platforms in order to have a successful business. I recently told a story to my CEOs that back in the day when I was doing my network marketing business, I was following a coach who told me I had to post 8 to 12 times a day. And I'm the kind of girl, if you tell me what to do, I do it. I check every box because you must know something I don't, and more must be better. And, like literally, it was like, I don't even know what I was thinking, but whether that worked back in the day or it worked for her, I don't know. But it's not that bad now. But I know this is something you're passionate about. So, like, what is the world out there telling us to do, especially in this area? Because, yeah, I mean, it's like if you want to have a business this day and age, it's like you have to be digital in some way, and yet we're being put a lot of the hustle culture is coming into that. So let's kind of dive into that part of it a little bit as well.
yeah. And I am so like you. If I have a checklist, I got to finish everything no matter what. Right. And so, like when I got started too, it was, oh, you need long form content and you need email and you need to be on the socials and you need to repurpose all your content to be everywhere. And what I found is it stressed me out because I was spending so much time trying to create all this content and repurposing all this content. And though I know it probably works, and in that time, maybe it was working, like social media used to be a great marketing platform, right? And so, but now in this day and age, people just want connection on there. They just want to scroll and see pretty pictures. They don't want to be taken off the platform. And the algorithm really doesn't work for us there because it's like you see it and forget it. It's only like a 10-second, your post might be seen for a day, but then it's gone. So it's so fleeting. And so, my thought process as I've gone through this journey, I've realized a lot of different things and in what's working and what's not working, at least for my business, because I think every business is different. And what we need to start with is where is my audience hanging out? Like, where are my people? And how do I go to meet them? And that's going to be different for everybody. But then also, what is my intention and purpose behind this content?
Mm.
Every time we create something, we need to know what our intention is. And because if it's not serving a purpose and we're just doing it to do it, which is busy work, then it's not going to lead to the gains that you want. It's just going to lead us frustrated because we're just going to get stuck in all of this creation. And so the gurus will maybe say, like one of the things I threw out the window was repurpose everything everywhere. That might work for somebody. But I didn't want to take a blog post that I wrote, turn it into a podcast, create a YouTube video out of it, create a bunch of different social posts that I just posted 5 times a day, because if you're on social, you have to post that many times a day to get seen. It just got to be too much. You're spread too thin if you're all these places. But if you're in one or two intentional places, you can really do good work there. You
Mm.
can really take that time, be purposeful with what you're doing, really serve the people well, and have way more return. And so when it came to social media, and I know we're probably going to dive into this even more, but this was in 2023, January 2023. I said, I'm doing a social media fast. I'm done. I don't want to do it. I have seen crickets. I've maybe had like 3 clients in the whole time I've been in business from social media. So I knew it wasn't a really good return on my time. So I said, I'm going to do a fast. I'm going to do it for a few months and then we'll see. I didn't know if I would go back on or not. But what is funny about it is I felt led in my spirit to do that. Now, I want to preface this because this might not be for everybody, because I do think that we need Christian women, good Christian women on socials. Like we need a good influence, we need light in there. But for me, it wasn't serving its in purpose. And so God said, I want you off. Like you're just wasting your time. I have more for you, kind of like you were talking about. If we
Mm.
hold on to that thing, he can't open the door because we're looking at the window instead.
Mm.
And so I got off, and a month later, Lissa, my podcast grew 400% a month later. And I'm like, and yes, I can't tell you that is correlated, but I think it's correlated to my obedience to doing what God called me to do. And
Wow.
so very interesting. And I stayed off. I stayed off for a full year. And I was like, don't miss this a bit. I'm not even on for life anymore. So life and business, I'm totally off. I do have handles, and sometimes I'll go in and ask a question, or I look at my boys' socials or things like that. But do anything on there. I haven't marketed on there in now it's been what 2 years completely. And my business has grown way more than it ever has before. And it's because I'm being intentional in those couple of places instead of trying to do it all and be everywhere like we have been lied to do, because that is hustle culture. That is us not really following the way, following what God wants us to do, because He wants us to be in strategic places. And for some people, it's social media. For some people, it's podcasts. For some people, it's writing, right? It's just a matter of us being willing to stick with it and not have the FOMO of, oh my gosh, I should be over there. Oh my goodness, what if I'm not here? What's going to happen to my business? That's not up to us. We do the work, God controls the results.
Yeah, I love this. And what I hear is you are doing exactly what a CEO does. A Christ-empowered operator, not a chief executive officer, number one, listens to God's voice above all the noise of everybody else out here that's telling you what you could, should, and would do, right? Even the voice inside us. And then number two, you're looking really intentionally at your time as a precious resource, and you're looking at the roadie, the return on time invested, and saying, is this, when I think about how much time I've spent, doing all of this, what kind of return has this brought? Is this a wise place to keep investing or not? And perfect timing. This was obviously timed well as well. We are just starting our digital fast here as a community on Redeem Her Time because this thing is something that a lot of time goes to. And I feel like this is a tangible way for people to see where their time is going. We have a screen time number that we can open up right now and you can't deny how much time is going to your screen because it's just telling you exactly what it is that you're doing, right? And so I love how you really brought out that this is going to look different for everyone, and
Mhm.
and it may not be, and even as we're doing this digital fast, I'm not saying you have to be screen free and you can't, be on a screen at all, or you can't be on social or things like that. But, like you did, kind of defining what's my why behind doing some kind of a fast around something digital and what's my timeline and also then what am I going to do instead. I think that's some of it too is like because otherwise especially as a business owner, right, if we're like FOMO, I'm not on social, then we're just going to get in our heads about what we're missing
Yeah.
out on, and it might be really easy to just jump right back into it even after that time period is done just because we feel like that's where I should be versus really taking that time to listen to the Lord and to go into something else. So as we're wanting to really be intentional around not being caught up in the current of the culture, whether it's hustle culture or just, content culture around us and things like that, like walk us through some practical steps that as CEOs we can start doing to really put some like, yeah, a healthy like perspective and use of these tools because they can be tools, but yeah, too much of them can be a hindrance and actually take away from our growth and results and things like that.
Yeah, well, I love that you're doing a digital fast because I think it's important for us to do something like that here and there, whether it's fasting digitally or on food or whatever it is that your indulgence is, right? Like where are you spending most of your time? That's what we should fast on because then we can really look to God and go, what is it that you really want me focusing on? Where do you want me? And just focus in on who He is and His word, right? Like I think that's really important when we're fasting. But what I do want to like encourage is as you're going through the digital fast, just look at your peace. Look
Mm.
at how you're like what's the quiet time? Like, normally a lot of people when there's downtime, even if it's a 30 seconds, pick up the phone and scroll or do something on the phone, right? You're not gonna be able to do that in the digital fast. So look at what you're thinking about or what you're doing in that time because quiet space is so good for us, especially as business owners, because that's where our creativity comes. That's where God gives us downloads. Like that's really where we can open up and see vision and where He's leading us. And so white space is okay. Being bored is okay. I tell my boys, all like my littlest, I was like, I'm so bored because they're so used to the digital world, right? I'm like, you can't be on there 24/7. It's not good for your little brain. I'm so bored. And I'm like, I'm so glad. I'm glad you're bored. This is great. And so anyway, I just want to encourage that. What is interesting, I'll even challenge you as you do the fast. Take your social, if you have socials on the phone, take them off. If you have extra games on your phone, take it off. In the digital fast, look at what apps you have on your phone and get rid of what's not serving you because phones can be overwhelming too. You look at it and you have like, so much going on. Like I know, Lissa, you talk about don't have 500 tabs open all the time. Like it's stressful because it's like, oh my gosh, I'm behind. I have too much to do. I
Yeah.
think phones can do that too. So my phone, if you look at the front of my phone, when it has one little folder that has like weather and the timer, and that's it. You have to scroll to the next page to see things, and they're in folders. I have so much white space on my phone because
I love
I
it.
don't have games, I don't have social, I don't have any of that. And that's just me personally. That was my boundaries that I was setting. But that's the first tip is essentially set boundaries for yourself. What does that look like digitally, but also like in your business? What are the things you're going to for sure say yes to? And what are the things you're for sure going to say no to? What are your boundaries? What are your work boundaries? Because sometimes, because it's our own business and we're having so much fun with it, and we feel like we are making an impact, but we feel so great serving, we could do it all day long. Like I really could do my business all day long, but we need a Sabbath. We need a
Mm.
rest time. We can't you have to slow down to speed up. Like you can't just keep going, 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 or you're going to end up in burnout like I have ended up with. And I tell you, it's not fun because it's really hard to get out of that and to get back on a good rhythm. And so those boundaries are important and they're important to stick to. So, what are your working hours? Will you work at, like, for me, I have decided I cut off my work time at night. So I don't work at night. I don't work on Sundays. Saturdays, sometimes I do project work because it's easier. I get a chunk of my time because I do a lot of client work during the week. So my own work, my own creativity, I want like a few hours. So I do that. But think about what that is for yourself. Boundaries in life too, because I don't know about you, Lissa, but a lot of people think, I think because I work from home and
Yeah.
maybe because I do the online thing, that I have all this time in the world. Like, oh, well, you can do that. Do you want to do this? You want to add this to your life? Can you go do this? And I'm like, if I worked a regular 9 to 5 job where I
Right.
was going to the office, no one would ask me to do things because they knew I wouldn't be able to. And so sometimes I got caught up in, oh, yeah, I'll do that, being the yes woman. Yes, I'll do that. Yes, I will do that. And then realize I don't have time for myself. I don't have time for my family. I don't have time to breathe. And so those boundaries matter. So I don't set appointments during work time. I make sure I do it outside of work time. So that's my first step. Second, also think outside the box.
Mm.
So everyone says, be on social media. You need to be an influencer. You need to do this. You need to do that. How else can you get visibility? How else can you grow your business? There's so many ways. And again, like we talked about earlier, go where your audience is. Think about some different places. Maybe your audience is actually in person. Maybe going to some networking groups is where you're going to meet your target client or your next person that is going, you're going to be doing services for, right? Or, collaboration is huge. Like for me, I love doing freebie swaps in my emails. So, hey, I'll support you. I'll share your free resource. You share your free resource. And so there's so many ways to get
Mm.
visibility without social and without even using paid ads. Because I know some people are like, oh, I need to do that right away. Well, do you have the budget for that? Until you have the budget for that, don't think about doing that. Think about other ways. And so, what works, like I said, what works for some people doesn't work for others. So, test the different things. Think about a lot of different strategies, test a couple, don't do them all at once, boundaries,
Yep.
but then see what works and what works, stick with until it doesn't work anymore. Because sometimes we get stuck. Oh, no, it's worked in the past. Why is it not working right now? Well, then just change it, do something else, right? So think outside the box. And then the other thing, and I know you're really good at this, Lissa, is to be intentional in your planning
Mhm.
and in your analyzing. So really taking time. I'm all about a weekly meeting with yourself. It's the best hour of my time. I don't even spend an hour on it, but it's my best time of the week because I'm planning out what are all my responsibilities for the week? What do I have on my plate? What do I have to do for the kids? What do I have to do for my husband? Like all the things, all the places I need to be, all the calls I have, all the work responsibilities. Where can I fit in downtime? Where can I fit in my run, which is my pleasure time? Like that's where I get fueled up. That's my self-care, running. But like intentionally planning. So then you can know what are my priorities for this week and whatnot. But the same thing with intentionally analyzing
Mm.
what's working. So cool, you're on social media, great. Are you analyzing the ROTI? Are you analyzing what's working and what's not working? How much time are you spending there? Is it worth it? Right? And so analyzing each different thing that you're doing, the content you're creating, and then like saying being okay with letting go if it's not serving its purpose.
Mm.
And then being okay with pivoting to something different if you're called to that too. And then with both planning and analyzing, bringing that prayer into it and making sure that people always ask me like, what does it mean to let God lead, or to pursue goals God's way? Because that's like my podcast name. But it really is more so just doing the planning, but then releasing your hand on the wheel,
Mm.
knowing you're going to probably end up going a different path to get there. But in order to do that, you have to have a plan
Exactly.
because you need some starting point, or you're not going to get where you think you're going to go, or it's going to take way too much time. So that intentional planning and analyzing is really, really important. So those are my few steps or a few things that I would think about as you're considering whether it's like social media or just considering where you are and where you're hanging out and where you're putting out content.
Yeah, I love these. They're so practical, and it's really just pausing to think and not just keep doing. Because how often have we just, like you said, we've been doing something because it's just what we've done and we're just keep doing it and not really paying attention, to where it's taking us or where it's not taking us. And so this work of, being able to push pause and look at what we're doing and look at the roadie on it. I did the math at the end of the year last year when I was sitting down to really create my strategy for 2025. And I did the math on where were my visibility places, how much time was I spending there to do that, and what kind of results had I seen that past year. And it was eye-opening to look at that and go, wow, that was very disproportionate, the amount of time specifically that was going to social media and the very little amount of results that was coming from that versus like, really nurturing my email list, and really growing the podcast and some of these other visibility things, that I've been doing. And so, yeah, that is important work. We have to stop and regularly plan in time to do that and then make some CEO decisions based on what we see. I mean, that's what a CEO of a Fortune 500 company does. They gather all their people to like tell them where, give me all the numbers, right? And then strategically, they're able to look at it and say, hey, keeping in line the vision and mission of our organization, like what makes sense for us to, be investing our time and our resources in and what doesn't. And yeah, it really makes all the difference. I love that you've walked us through these boundaries, thinking outside the box, and then intentional planning and analyzing. So you've alluded to this, but I would love to just kind of like wrap it up with this part. Like, how does all of this work? How does going through these steps? How does thinking about these things? How does it affect our time and our roadie, our return on time invested, especially in our business?
Yeah, I would say the most important thing that it does is it helps us to be aware of how much time things are taking and be aware of what is working and what's not. And so I know, like with the digital fast that you guys are doing, I do encourage also look at how much time you're spending on your phone every day. Like, what is that average? Because for many people, now the stat might be different now, but it's like 4 to 6 hours a day.
Yeah.
That's on the phone. That doesn't include TV shows or computer or things like that. And so think about that in terms of ROTI. What if you could transition even 2 of those hours
Mm.
to something of purpose, to something that's going to drive your business further? I mean, talk about ROTI, 2 hours a day, that's 10 hours a week in business. And so, and really, honestly, one of the reasons that I kind of got on this journey is that I do have outside client work. I'm a contractor for about 30 hours a week. And so I work full time. So I work 30 hours. So I only have 10
Yeah.
hours to invest in my business. So I had to figure out how to make that work. And I could easily have spent 10 hours on social media, but was that serving its purpose? No. So it affects, the other thing that it affects is just our stress level. It
Mm.
affects how we are with others. I know that when I get stressed and I feel like I'm working more than I should, I take it out on my family because they're right here, right?
Yeah.
They see the crabby bear, especially at the end of the day after I've talked so much on Zoom.
Yeah.
And so if we could cut back on the things that don't matter as much or that aren't doing or serving the purpose, how much more can we invest in others or in what we're meant to be doing? So I think that is the huge benefit in it because we will essentially, one, like what we're doing even more, but then also see more of an impact. And I think it's cool too because we have an impact in like even just how we're doing digital things, like how we are on our phone, how we are using social media. We have an impact on our kids. They will see what we're doing. Now, if we're scrolling all the time, we tell them, hey, you can only be on for an hour.
Yeah.
Where,
They're like,
what
my
example are we setting?
mom.
Yeah, exactly. And even just people around us. Because sometimes I have people being like, I don't know how you get it all done. Because it looks like I do a lot. I mean, I do a lot. I have a lot of roles. Every mom, every woman has a lot of roles, right? And so, but it's more because I've chosen to invest, like to stop doing certain things so I can invest more in what I'm doing. And guess what? I still get to watch shows, a couple shows every night. I still do that.
Right.
And or I still have my downtime to do a puzzle because I'm a puzzler. My boys are like, "You're so old. You like to puzzle and watch Wheel of Fortune." I'm like, "I know."
Ah,
So anyway, whatever. It's fine. So, but that's the thing. It's like let's look at that and see. Could you take a couple hours from here, and what can you do with that? Or can you just have white space there? Maybe that will help you relax and just enjoy life a little bit more.
yeah. I love this. Okay. So I'm thinking of that woman listening who's like, okay, I'm inspired. I'm challenged by this conversation. I know I need to start moving in a direction, but maybe she's feeling kind of overwhelmed. Maybe she's feeling a little stuck or like, I don't know if I can let go. This feels like I have to, whatever. What would be one piece of encouragement or advice that you would give to her to help start letting go and to start moving in a direction of like what we're talking about today?
I love this. Okay, so it might be a twofold, but one, I would get alone with God
Mm,
and ask, why is my spirit stirring like this? Why am I having the fear of letting go? What is the underlying root to that? Right? Because I feel like we need to start there and kind of allow God to be like, nope, let me deal with this. Let me figure this out. This is what I need from you. But tangibly and practically, just do a little less. So,
mm,
like, let's say in your spirit, you're like, oh, I really don't think I'm supposed to do social media anymore, for business. Maybe you still want to use, or for life, whatever it is. Like, I don't want to do social media anymore. Okay, well, how about you just delete the apps on your phone? That's going to help control it a little bit already. Or just delete them on the weekend,
mm.
when you want to be intentional with your family or other things, and start there. See what happens for a week or two, then change it a little bit more. Maybe consider, okay, I'll do an hour a day. After that, I can't. Like, I'll have a timer on you have timers on your phone, you can use them. I know we can get away with it by saying, give me more time,
Yeah,
but
right.
at
Snooze.
least it's an indicator, because sometimes, I mean, my kids, my littlest, when he's on electronics, if he doesn't have a timer, I'll be like, you've been on all day. He's like, no, I haven't. I've only been on like an hour. And I'm like, it's been 5. So he has to have a timer to
Ah,
control it so that he knows, because we're not aware sometimes when we just get into kind of the funk of whatever we're doing. So it's really just, that's my encouragement. Start small, because we can't just, most of the time, we can't just cut it off. Most of the time, we can't just get rid of it, because then we'll either want it more, like, oh, this is like me and eating. I love treats. But if I say, I'm not having sugar at all anymore, then all I'm going to want is sugar. But
right.
if I limit myself to one treat a day, then one, that's good health boundaries, in my opinion, because I mean, like, we got to live life too and enjoy the sweets. But it gives me kind of that moderation. So I'm filled. And I feel like that's a good step for us to take as we're kind of letting go of whatever it is that we're called to let go of.
Yay. Yes, I love it. I love it. And it's so interesting. It's like we can't imagine life without something. And then you just do a little bit less and a little bit less. And you kind of let that next level become the new normal. And it's just interesting over time, if you keep doing that, you may get to the point where that thing doesn't even exist, or it's so minimal that you're not hardly thinking about it. And you realize suddenly, like, oh my goodness, like I really don't feel like I'm lacking something without it, and probably even feeling that more of the peace and the joy and the time and things like that when it's not there. So I love these, and this is going to be so helpful as we step into this digital fast. So thank you for that, and thanks for coming on today and having this conversation. I know we could talk a long time about these things because these are things, like you said, that are very commonplace for us as believers, as women, as moms, as business owners, as, wearing all these roles and hats and things like that. So, since we are going to have to end the conversation here on the podcast, first of all, I always invite my guests into the Redeem Her Time community where we continue the conversation. So I'm just reminding our listeners, come on over to the Redeem Her Time community at redeemhertime.com/community and come join us. I always have a question that I post based on the conversation we had, and we're in there to encourage each other to be taking these steps. And so I think this will be a great place to continue the conversation. But you've got some great resources coming up, including something that you and I are collabing on together pretty soon. So tell us a little bit about where people can go to get in your world and learn a little bit more from you, Gabe.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you are interested in a social media fast or just doing things differently, I do have a resource called Craft Your Marketing Strategy Without Social Media. And you can get it at redhotmindset.com/marketing. My website is the best place to find me and connect with me outside of my podcast, which is Pursuing Goals God's Way, because I'm not on socials. You can't come hang out with me there. You can find me there, but you won't find me there, really.
Right.
So that's one of the resources. The other thing that I'm super excited about, Lissa is going to be speaking at this event, but it's our second annual Grow Your Biz Without Social virtual conference, and it's coming up April 14th through the 18th. It's 5 full days. It's power packed. We have already about 33 speakers who are
Mm.
going to pour into you throughout the week. And one thing that's different about this virtual event is that I'm not having the videos expire in 24 hours, which sometimes you see in conferences. They're going to be up and available for the week for you. So you can come in when it works for you. Come get poured into because we're going to talk about all the different kinds of marketing strategies out there. It will be a fire hose. So the same thing, like come and take what you need, test some of the things, don't do it all at once. But it's really for Christian entrepreneurs who want to do things differently, who don't want to be in the hustle culture anymore, who don't want to be a slave to the algorithm, who want to make social media optional. That's what it is. It's not like for me, I got off completely. But for some, it's more, I just want to enjoy what I do on there and not feel like I have to be there. And so that's what the event is all about.
Fantastic. So that is coming up April 14th through 18th, about a month or so after this episode will be aired. So make sure check the show notes. We will make sure that we put the link in there to register and or be checking inside the Redeem Her Time community because that's going to be sharing information with you. Or if you are on Gabe's email list or mine because you went and grabbed her resource, then we'll be sharing about that as well. So don't worry. You don't have to go find the post on social and hope that an algorithm is going to, pull it up for you when you're on your feed. Like if you're connected with one of us, you will be hearing about it. You will get the link to be able to register because we want you to be there. I also just want to kind of throw this out so you guys know this is not the last time you're going to hear from Gabe on Redeem Her Time. Also, because she is going to be one of the speakers at the It's Time conference happening in Nashville in September. Tickets are officially going to go on sale for people outside of the Redeem Her community. But when this airs, if you guys are inside the community or if you come join the community today, you can get early bird pricing and you can get your hands on tickets to come join us in September, the 22nd through the 25th for the It's Time conference. And I cannot wait for us to be in person, in real life, right? Let's get off the screens. Let's get in the room together and let's see what God wants to do when we really seek Him around our faith and our business and all these things that He's called us to. So I would love for you guys to be in the room with Gabe and I. And so, again, come into the Redeemer Time community where you can already grab early bird tickets. And if you're hearing this after that, then I will make sure that we drop the link to go and register and grab your ticket for the conference. So that way you guys can come and join us. But anyway, all that to say, you'll be hearing more from Gabe Cox because she's going to be sharing some really neat things with us at that conference. So I'm excited what God's going to do and the fruit it's going to bring. So thanks so much, Gabe. I appreciate your time today. I always like to end with a personal question, right? Like when we look at the season, and we started off by talking about seasons of life, seasons of business, right? So when this airs, I mean, you're in those last couple months before your son graduates, and then, you're starting to walk into this next season. So what is it time for in this season of your life and business?
Man, I would say it's time for me to let go a little bit more. And so some people are saying, they have asked me, aren't you sad? Like, is it going to be really sad when he leaves? I'm like, yeah, it's going to be sad, but I'm ready. Like,
Yeah.
that's what we train them up for, right? We train them up to let them go. We have to hold them loosely. So it'll be a different season, but it's time to let go of that. And it's also time to let go of other aspects of my business. So I have simplified so much. And that's something that I always think about. Like, what is it that I'm supposed to be doing and what is it that I'm supposed to be letting go? And I'm open to that in this season as well, so that I can really focus on my family and be there for them because I do, like I said, I work full time. So I do want to make sure I'm investing in them as well.
Mm, yeah, yeah. Those are great things to make time for. And I know that God's going to bless that many times over when you are trusting Him with that. So thank you so much for sharing with us today. Thanks everyone for listening. Please share this with a business bestie or a few because there are other women out there who are wanting to build businesses, who are wanting to walk by faith and not get caught up in the hustle hurry culture. And this is an important message and conversation. So we will see you guys over inside the Redeemer Time community and Lord willing at the conference in a couple of months. And we'll look forward to talking to you soon. All right, take care.